back, guys. Today it's a little bit windy, but Thanksgiving is upon us, and that means that it is time to winterize our camper. And our camper is right over there, so we're gonna get some glycol going and we'll get started. But before we get started on that video, please check out when my dad and I put some new boards on this trailer, because look at how pretty it is. It's beautiful. So for the trailer winterizing, this is the stuff we're going to be using. I think I picked this up at Canadian Tire or Home Depot, one of those spots. It's rated to -50 for burst protection, so that's what we're going to be throwing in our lines. Today we are going to be winterizing our 28.5 foot Aspen Trail camper. I've had this camper for a couple of years now. We winterize it every year just to obviously make sure that the pipes don't burst. And I'll walk you through step by step what to do so that you guys can do it to your own. All right. First things first. Underneath the axle here, we have this little drain pipe that comes out from our fresh water tank. So we normally keep this closed. We drain it pretty much when we get back, every time we go camping. I didn't bother this time because I knew we'd be doing this video. So I don't know, most trailers have a drain somewhere. Sometimes the valve is up inside and it's just this part that sticks down, but for this camper in particular, the valve is actually on the outside. So we're gonna go ahead and open that up. And then whatever's left in the tank is just gonna flush out here onto the driveway. Next thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna take off the cover for the hot water tank and then empty the hot water tank so that it doesn't store any any water over the winter. There's usually a plug in the bottom left. These are all pretty universal. So I'll bring you guys closer so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the plug right here that you guys are going to be taking out, and then that's going to flush out all the water just onto the ground. So we'll do that right now. So once you have it nice and loose, either by a crescent wrench or a socket, we're just going to remove that, put it off to the side so it stays in this compartment for next year, and let that drain out. Welcome to our home away from home. In case anybody's interested, this is what a 2021 Aspen Trail 28.5 Bunk House looks like. We use ours mostly for storage for those bunks because we only have a 1.5-year-old and he's not big enough to use them yet. Non-plumbing related, make sure your fridges are turned off and empty for the season. And make sure that your gas at the front, where your propane tanks are, just make sure that those are closed up. And for us, our hot water tank is located under the stove, so we're going to put that into bypass and then start working on the pump. We're going to undo this access door here. There is the hot water tank. So in order for this to be put into bypass, there's a valve on the hot side and the cold side. So what you're going to want to do, some people will flush glycol through this beforehand, but then you end up wasting a ton of glycol because you end up putting it into the tank when you don't actually need to. So we're going to go ahead and bypass these. So one there and one down in here. remember which way to turn. There we go. Okay, done. So what this essentially does is when the valves are turned the opposite way, the way that they were originally, so it allows the cold water to come in here, go into the tank, and then it comes out of this hot supply line to the rest of the camper. So by turning these two valves, essentially just instead of the water coming in this line and into the tank and out here, it'll bypass the line completely, come up here, and then continue on here. So we're never actually going into the tank, which is why we drained it outside. And then when we add the glycol, no glycol will actually get into this tank. So after you bypass the hot water tank, you're gonna come up here, you're gonna turn your water pump on. Open up a couple of the sinks. And you'll hear the pump running. You'll see a little bit of water sputtering out like this. Run it for about 30 seconds. And then you know that your lines are pretty well empty. So there are some tanks inside. In other models, like our friends have a smaller trailer. And it's just a different brand, so I don't know if the size, I mean size always matters. But I don't know if, it really comes down to the branding or what. But his pump inside, it was actually near the back in his, but for his trailer, his pump actually had a T where you could valve off the main water line, and then you could tee up to a suction hose that was just kind of dangling there, and then you could actually feed that right into the glycol container. So you'd bring that up, put it in the area where the pump was, and then switch a couple valves, and it would actually siphon through the pump into the system. That way this trailer doesn't have it for some reason. So I have a Milwaukee transfer pump here, so I'm just going to pump the antifreeze through the lines into the city water connection, and then it'll flush out all the lines. I'm going to turn that on. Battery is alive. Well, just as I went to use the pump, you could hear it trying to start, but she was a little seized, so took the front end off. It's never easy. Took the front side off here. I think the seal bearing is finally starting to go, because the last time I used it, there was a little bit of leakage just on the bottom side in here, which means that the seal bearing in this pump, which is moving freely now, I freed up the vise off camera there, but so this shaft right here goes through a seal bearing, and so what that does is all the water stays in here while this is allowed to move freely and spin without the water getting back to where the motor is. And you can see there's a little bit of corrosion built up inside of that, and what that's doing is it's stopping it from freely spinning off the start. So now when I go to start it, now it spins. Before it was just dead. So anyways, I'll buckle that back up and then we'll get started. Okay, now we should be good to go. We're gonna wait until each sink starts coming out pink. That one's done. Also done. Make sure the hot side comes out pink. Also done. Done. This is gonna be hard to film, so bear with me. Done. Probably still pink from last year because we never actually used the sink at all. A couple other things that we're going to do. So when we go to button this guy back up for the hot water tank, what I generally do is I will put tin foil in behind this guy, just behind the grill, pull this open, and then I'm going to pack tin foil in the backside. We have a ton of squirrels, we have a lot of mice, we live in the country. That's just the reality of things. So we're going to do our best to keep everything out. Same thing even with this guy for the exhaust. We'll end up stuffing some tin foil in behind to make sure that that's snapped tight, or sorry, just so you guys can see. So our exhaust for the exhaust fan on the stove. And depending on where you're storing it as well, you'll just disconnect the battery back in here. Make sure your propane is shut off for the winter. Make sure your slide in is in. And yeah, don't forget to empty your gray and black tanks. We have every year, we've never had an issue. We've heard horror stories of people that don't do it, and then a line cracks, and then they go to check on it in the spring, and it's pretty gross. So don't forget to clean those out before everything freezes. So you're also going to want to put tin foil in behind where this fridge is. So you're going to open up this compartment. Again, because we have a bunch of squirrels, we've got, you know, field mice and stuff in the area. We live in the country, so that's just something that we have to deal with. They're always trying to get into this camper to live here for the winter. So anyways, at all times, I put tin foil. When we're done for the season, I cover it wherever I can. So like the fridge, the grate for the fridge looks like this. And sure, like the holes are, you know, the holes are pretty small, but so are mice. I don't like mice, especially not in my toys. So anyways, what we'll do is we'll block all this off with tinfoil on the inside. That way they can't get in. And then we're gonna basically put bounce sheets everywhere throughout the camper. Dial that all in. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So